Hey guys, what's going on? It's TCARP. Alright, today I want to talk to you guys about the economy. It is November the 13th and everything just changed a little bit. You had the president sign a bill that would fund the government. Like a small continuing resolution, or again, kicking the can down the road. And we will find out what's in all that stuff. But like I said, I thought, November 1st, when the SNAP benefits were going to end, there was some little Hail Marys here and there, and then magically now you have this fixed, so on and so forth. And I thought as much. But I really do want to talk about the economy, and guys, talk to you about some things that I think are extremely important. I'm going to talk to you about some three bubbles today. The housing market, I'm going to talk about the bond market, and then I'm going to talk to you about the stock market. These are bubbles, and tech and all that. These are bubbles that are very important that you pay attention to, because, like I said, I'm not trying to be fearful here. I'm just being real with you guys. These are things that could definitely happen, and you just need to pay attention to and be aware of. Stay with me. We'll get into each one of these in a clear, concise manner. All right, so first let's talk about the tech bubble, okay? So the tech bubble, or the stock market, is up right now. If you have stocks, like I've always said, the S&P 500, you've had mutual funds like that, like I personally have. You'll notice that it's really up right now. You've done really well. And those are basically held up by about 7 to 8 big companies, big stock or big tech companies like Nvidia, Microsoft, Tesla, things like that. And they're riding this big AI wave. The problem with that is these companies have not actually made the profit to suggest they should be worth as much. So what that means is, usually for every the average every like $14 to $15 a stock is worth, the company will actually make $1. Okay, so that's kind of the right ratio. Well, right now, like some of these companies, I think Nvidia is like $60 to $70 per $1 of stock evaluation. That's a big deal, guys. That really shows kind of overinflation of what these companies are worth. If everybody thinks that they're, worth this much, but they're not making anything, that is the 2000s era .com bubble, where they just think it's worth something because it has a .com behind it. They think it's worth something because it has AI attached to it. That's very, very, very concerning. Michael Burry, if you've ever watched The Big Short, he is the guy that shorted the housing market and whatnot, that Steve Carell plays. He has shorted these AI stocks, and he is calling BS on them. And that's concerning. That can be very, very concerning. Usually he's early, but he's proven to not be wrong. So there's an issue there. And if these big stock companies, these big 7 stock companies kind of falter, the economy or the stock market starts to come down. And right now, that's what a lot of people are riding on. It's like, the economy's fine, the stock market's doing great. Not necessarily correlating things. Guys, the next one is the housing bubble. As you guys know, if you guys have been living under a rock, since 2019, houses have, have doubled. I mean, you guys know this. Just where I'm at in East Tennessee, a $200,000 house is now $400,000, $500,000. The median house here where I live is $390,000. The problem is the wages have not kept up with that. I think the math on that is it's 7 times a person's annual income is now how much it costs for a house. When you have houses that expensive, people can't afford them. The normal, I looked up the income. The normal income in my county is about $80,000, like joint income, husband and wife or whatever. And the median price is $390,000. So the median person in the median house, the bank won't even loan that loan. The reason why is because it's over 35-40% of their take-home pay. So the bank says this is too much debt, you can't do it. And people not only have they have this debt, like they're trying to get a house, they're trying to get out of student loans. They've got credit cards out the wazoo, and heck, my grocery bill for a family of 4 is $1,600 a month. Now you may think I'm crazy with that, but we are trying to get our grocery bill, and I think we're getting it down to about $300 a week, but it's up in the $400 a week for meat. And that's just, that's just where we're at. And we live right now, we're you guys know we're building and whatnot. That there's been some problems with that financially. Groundwork and land stuff and land prep thing, you run into problems. We're $20,000 in the hole with that. I mean, it's there's just so much. And we live in the cheapest apartment in the county that I'm aware of, 800 square foot apartment right now for $1,100 a month, and it's going up to $1,213, and that's like the cheapest we can find. So guys, like normal people are struggling so bad, especially with housing, all that. What's going to happen when these things start falling, when more houses are on the market, and they can't sell for what they want to sell for, and they're not? What happens when that domino starts to fall? And I mean, I'm just telling you, it's going to start. Maybe not today, but that is a major bubble where it's like, okay, or let's say the financing thing happens where it's like, okay, houses go to, they start dropping interest rates and people want to refinance. Oh, your house isn't worth what you paid for it 3 or 4 years ago. Then you have some major issues. But the housing bubble is there. Major cost of living issues there. And the third thing that I want to talk about is the bond market yield curve. Now, this is a little complicated, so I'm going to try to make it as uncomplicated as possible. When short-term bonds are giving you more money or giving you a higher percentage than the long-term bonds, that's called a inverted yield curve. These fancy word, but it's an inverted thing. Because usually, hey man, if I'm going to give you my money for 10 years, I'm going to want more back because I'm giving you my money for 10 years. Lately, with the interest rates the way they are, the past couple of years, the short-term interest rates have been giving more money back than the long-term ones. Well, when that happens, they call, like I said, an inverted yield curve. When that happens, that has predicted basically 8 out of the last 8 recessions with only one false positive. And we're talking since 1950. So since 1950, that indicator has predicted all the recessions and only had one false positive, and that was in 1966, I believe. We have just been inverted for the past 3 years, and it just now flipped, so it's not inverted anymore. Usually, after that inversion, you have the months after that, a certain time frame, and I believe it's from October till about July of next year is when that recession hits. That's the math on this that I can look up and say. That's really concerning. I don't know what that means for us. Now, these could be false positives, but there's a lot of things going on here that show this. My genuine concern too is you have the demographic shift as well. Okay, there's a lot more baby boomers than there are Gen X's and millennials and whatnot. There's just not enough people in that to support and to pay taxes and to do the things that the baby boomers who are retiring and not spending the money, they're just not adding to the economy and whatnot. That's a big deal. It's a big issue. And what happens with that is these when you have things like this, when you have these things, what happens is there's just not enough, like I said, population to pay for and pay taxes on, like Social Security, Medicare, things of that nature. Also, there's not enough Gen X and millennials out in the economy buying things. What we don't talk about is a lot of baby boomers, Gen X, where all of our retirements are in our 401ks. Okay, so let's say you have $1.5 million right now, and you want to take money out, and you take it out at 4 or 5% a year, which is what they tell you to do so that you don't go broke. 4 or 5% of $1.1 million, $1.2 million is $40,000 to $50,000. Can you live on $40,000 to $50,000 for 10, 15 years right now? I don't think many people can. So people retiring with $1 million, like, hey, that was going to be awesome. Not necessarily. I don't think people can fully retire the way they thought anymore, and they can't spend the money like they thought. And they just gonna have a big, major wake-up call. We want the economy, we want the stock market to keep growing at 2, 3, 4, 5%, and the S&P 500 to keep growing at that 10 to 15% that it's done the past 20, 30, 40 years. But we may be suffering from 40-year recency bias, is what people are saying. What that means is we're suffering from the baby boomers just being born. And like them growing and buying houses and all that, you have this major influx of people and buying things and doing that, which is great. But now that they're to a certain age where they're retiring and pulling their money out, not necessarily out of the stock market, but out of the economy, and not going to home goods or doing those things like they used to, we're seeing the major economic impacts of that. Now, the next question is, what do we do? And that is the question, is what do we do? My thing is, right now, I don't have a whole lot of answers other than you need to learn how to prep. What I mean by prep is you need to have some stored food. You need to have good stored food if you can afford it. Food, water, shelter. Get out of debt. Do not buy these $100,000 pickup trucks. Don't be doing stupid stuff like that. Get out of car debt, get out of credit card debt, get out of student loan debt. So really focus and pay attention to that. I know it's very, very, very expensive right now, but do not be spending your money on stupid things. The next thing is once you have that, get yourself an emergency fund. Get yourself that 3 to 6 month emergency fund, because here's the thing, guys, with the economy the way it is, layoffs are coming. I pray to God that they never happen to you, but layoffs are coming. You need to be aware of that and need to be prepared for that financially. 3 to 6 months, and be prepared to do whatever, by the way. Be prepared to work at McDonald's. Be prepared to work at Crystal or wherever. God forbid it happens to me, but, I'm be prepared to do anything to make money. This is not I want to do this. No, it's, hey, can I get a job doing this? Be prepared to do that. And the third thing, I really think you need to learn how to hunt and trap and fish and do those things. Be able to get your protein sources from another area other than the grocery store. I understand it's very difficult to get grains and starches and rice, like grow that and have an abundant supply of that at this moment. But meals are going to have to consist of proteins and starches, okay? And you need to be prepared to get your proteins at another place other than the grocery store. The best place, in my opinion, is fishing. Fishing is phenomenal. Bass, bluegill, crappie, those things, it's easy to do. You can feed yourself really well with that. Trapping, you need to learn how to trap. It's a lost art. We're going to get into that. Hunting's a little bit more calorie intake, but hey, if you can get a deer or two, perfect. And learn how to cook it and learn how to process it yourself. That's my opinion on this, guys. Really, really think about this. Like I said, I hope I'm wrong, but we're going to see in the next 8 to 10 months. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. This is TCARP, signing out.